Welcome to another Becoming a Modern Man. We are playing Selesnya Value once again, and this time we're running up against Death and Taxes, a red-white version of the Death and Taxes, which I haven't seen too often, seemingly playing red primarily for Lightning Bolt. Let's see if we can get our opening hand up. So this opening hand is pretty nice, except the fact that we don't have any green sources. So unfortunately this is a mulligan, otherwise this would have been very nice. We could have had a turn 2 Azusa and then played out a load of lands, or our turn 2 Knight, which would have been good. Mulligan to 6, this is pretty good too. We've got Hierarch into Corsair, which seems pretty good, so happy enough to keep this. So let's get underway. See a tireless tracker on the scry, which we're going to keep on top for sure. Definitely just want to find some more 3-drops really, provided nothing happens to our Hierarch. We should be dropping 3-drops from next turn, so that's all very good. But plays Inspiring Vantage, and then nothing, which is kind of interesting. My first thought would have been Burn, with any sort of red-white kind of land, but no turn 1 play kind of makes that less likely, so I wasn't entirely sure what my opponent was playing at this point. But we're going to run out Corsair here, mainly because we can get a lot more value off playing the Tireless Tracker and getting the landfall triggers. Also, it's potentially going to draw us a card. Immediately paths the Corsair, which I'm not too upset about, to be honest. It gives us an extra land, and Corsair was not too crucial at this point. So it's Thalia. We're going to run out the Tireless Tracker here and then play our fetch land to make a clue. We could either have cracked the foothills and cracked this clue this turn, but I think I prefer just playing out the Hierarch, getting more mana on the board for us, and that should hopefully make us able to crack more clues in the future. So button attached with Thalia, which is fine, and then passes a turn. Try and crack my Wooded Foothills, end of turn. My opponent plays Aven Mind Center, which is somewhat annoying. So we're going to have to look at our top 5 cards. I mean 4 cards, is it? With yeah, 4 cards with Aven Mind Center. Unfortunately, there is not a land in there, so we're going to whiff on our fetch, unfortunately. Which certainly makes it nice that we played those extra mana dorks. So I'm going to play Excavator here, for the purpose of replaying our fetch land and getting another trigger of the Tireless Tracker to make our second clue here. We have attack here with double exalted, can make attack for 5 here. Could have cracked a clue, but I don't end up doing that. I just end up trying to crack the fetch. I mean, we're going to be able to replay that repeatedly, just trying to find that 4th land. I suppose it wasn't necessary to do that currently, but you can get a land drop each turn as long as the fetch is in the graveyard. And then, yeah, as I say, we're didn't bother to crack the clue. We're going to play the bop, as I say. Again, just increasing our amount of mana available to us. Opponent plays a Blade Splicer, which is somewhat annoying, but I mean, it's not, doesn't really fend off our Tireless Tracker. Has a semi-decent attack, I suppose, if he wanted it. We draw a path, which is obviously very good, in case our opponent plays something too scary. We attack with the Tireless Tracker. Our opponent decides not to block, so we're just going to get in as much damage as possible here. So we got 2 clues. We find a Voice of Resurgence. I feel like I'd rather play that. And then we've got a decent blocker. The token obviously would be fairly large at this point, so I decided to play the Voice rather than crack the second clue, but maybe we should have done it just to get down to 7. Debatable point, but I think having the Voice on the board makes our opponent's ground attacks a lot worse. But attacks him with Mind Sensor, it's 2. Find a Corsair, which I'm going to play out. It's going to help us gain quite a bit of life, hopefully. I mean, I suppose we've still got an issue with the Mind Sensor in the sense that it's stopping us hitting lands. But it's not too offensive. I mean, I could path it, as I say, which would help us search up more lands, but it doesn't really seem worthwhile. Not entirely sure of all the threats in this deck at this point, and I think killing this Mind Sensor is not really a top priority, particularly now we've got Corsair, just going to make sure that we don't die anytime soon. Can probably negate most of the life loss. So draw to a Collected Company with a clue. Play Horizon Canopy, which triggers our tracker and our Corsair. And yeah, at this point I realised that really attacking in with the tireless tracker is kind of pointless. We can do it, but he's got a lot of first strike damage, so we can probably get past that, but I think ultimately he's going to start chumping us repeatedly, so I think the best thing to do is actually just start flying over with our opponent on 8. So I'm going to take 4 hits with this bird to get through, so our opponent's going to have to hang back with his Mind Sensor and block, or just keep trying to whack away at us, but I think we're going to win that particular race. So opponent plays an Arbiter. Just had to crack my fetches in response to see if we can get to land. We managed to find a forest with the first one, so get our triggers going, and we see that there's on top there is a forest, so we might as well crack the second one because we know it's going to hit, and put that into play. So 2 more landfall triggers before our opponent's Arbiter comes into play. Got 4 clues. Here we're going to Collected Company in response to our opponent's attack. It's going to cost 5 thanks to the Thalia, but it's okay. We're going to put Corsair into play, which again assists with the life gain, and we've got Excavator in play, so we can just replay fetch lands from our graveyard and gain 2 lives, so we're in a pretty good position in terms of that, if he's only chipping away at us for 2. But we also find the Mind Sensor, which I can actually use to just trade here. Might have been the wrong thing to do to trade. We could have just kept the Mind Sensor and then we would start attacking for 4 with the Exalted triggers. Maybe that would have been better. But I just wanted to get the Mind Sensor off the board, really. And now the Mind Sensor's gone, we can replay our fetch lands and fetch up lands with them. So we can gain quite a silly amount of life with Corsair if we so require. You can play a fetch land from the graveyard here, but we should have just played the Horizon Canopy off the top just to get that off the top of our library, but that's just me not paying attention. So we tap for 2 in the air. I played a Hierarch after combat, which was definitely a mistake. We should have attacked the 3 in the air. So yeah, I should have played the Hierarch pre-combat, but didn't think of that at the time, unfortunately. Well, he plays Flicker Wisp, but he's not going to get very far with it. He's going to be able to blink out the tracker, so it's not quite so huge, but he's just going to come back, and then we've got lots of clues to crack, which we're going to do. So using our available mana to crack clues, which finds us some more lands. I also path to exile the Flicker Wisp, so we can keep getting in the air with our Birds of Paradise. So hit for 3. If we hadn't missed that point of damage earlier, my opponent would already been dead. So that's like ghost quartering our opponent's lands, because we can repeatedly ghost quarter him. And then we can see him off red. He finds a Lightning Bolt, which is what the red is for, seemingly, in the deck, which kills off the Bop. So maybe we should have played this other Bop earlier, but we do have another one to replace it. We also find Knight at this point in time, which is useful. So yeah, I mean the plan, if we can't already kill our opponent, is yeah, our opponent concedes at this point, and he's on 1 life, and facing down quite a formidable team. I don't think he's going to be able to find a way out of this, and in the meantime we're just able to draw cards, gain life, and have complete control of the game really at this point. Also this Knight would probably be used to find a Gavany township, and then we can just attack him with everyone. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to our opponent's 7. So yeah, if we get the Gavany township, we can definitely finish off our opponent. So yeah, he'd been dead next turn, pretty much certainly. So yeah, that all worked out fairly well. We just managed to take control of the game after a while. Tyler's Tracker did a lot of work in terms of drawing his additional cards and getting us deeper into our deck. Of course, they're very good in this matchup just because all their ground creatures kind of max out at 3 power. So we can kind of take them on, and also gaining that small amount of life is kind of important when your opponent's only attacking you for like 2 or 3 at a time. Certainly gaining 1 life every now and again is very useful. Just extends the game in our favour. So that all works out quite nicely, and yeah, we managed to finish up game 1 with a win. Okay, so looking at the sideboard, it's kind of a tough one. I don't entirely know which way to go in terms of sideboarding. I mean, to be honest, Death and Taxes, most of their hate doesn't really affect us, which obviously is good on our end of things. We're a creature-based deck, so there isn't really much hate in their deck in relation to that. So most of our stuff still kind of works. Obviously, Collected Company is slightly more expensive with Thalia. It's more difficult to fetch up lands and search with the Knight. So I suppose the search hate kind of works against us. As I say, fetch lands, and the Knight is searchability. But it doesn't hamper us too much. So yeah, I mean the main deck is pretty solid against theirs, and as I say, a lot of the hate isn't overly effective against us, so that's all pretty fine. As I said earlier, Corsair seems really good against Blade Splicer, obviously able to block the token and live, which is good, and also obviously allows us to gain some life. Tyler's Tracker did a lot of work, drawing his extra cards, etc. They're quite light on removal, so I think that's certainly a good thing for us. In terms of cards that aren't so great, I don't think Scavenging Ooze is overly useful. They're not really doing anything with their graveyard, so there's nothing much going on there, and they're probably going to be reluctant to make too many trades as well, so I don't really see Scavenging Ooze being a card that shines in this matchup. So I think that's probably one of the prime targets for taking out. I often take out Zuza. I don't know if it's right or wrong, but I just don't think it doesn't really match up well to their creatures, and playing additional lands isn't overly useful to us in this matchup. So I don't think we want Azusa either. So those are probably the cards we want to take out. I think Reclamation Sage probably comes in. Destroying Vial is probably quite important. We didn't really see a lot of it from the last game, but obviously he's got Flicker Wisps, and either Vial and Flicker Wisp is a pretty painful combination, and yeah, it's a very good card for them. Also, it has additional value against Blade Splicer. We can destroy their tokens with a Reclamation Sage, so I think we're fairly confident we'll have a target with a Reclamation Sage at least a good amount of the time, so I think we bring that in. Pride Mage, again, same reasons. We kind of want to bring that in for destroying Vials and potentially Blade Splicer tokens. I also decided to bring in Skigarda for this matchup. They've got a few flyers which are kind of problematic for us, like Flicker Wisp, etc. And Skigarda is a good defender on that front, or potentially attacker depending on how things look. She can't be targeted by Flicker Wisp or anything like that, so that's obviously very useful, and she outsizes all of their flyers, so I think she will be a good blocker and a good card to bring in this matchup. So yeah, I think probably both Scavenging Ooze is out and Azusa. Potentially Mind Sensor, I suppose. The best thing about it really is that it can potentially be a flying blocker. But he's not really doing any searching, so I think potentially Mind Sensor well. So maybe Mind Sensor or Azusa. But yeah, I think Reclamation Sage, Pride Mage, Garda coming in. Could argue Elspeth as well. Oh, actually, Linvala was the other one. As I say, we see later that our opponent's his other creatures, he's got Restoration Angels, and he's also got the 3/3 Angel Seravenger, I think it's called. So Linvala just is a good blocker against those creatures. So I think I brought that in as well, actually. Thinking back, so those 4 cards, and then I think Scavenging Ooze, even Mind Sensor, Azusa coming out. Okay, so let's get back onto the games. Okay, here we have game 2. So this is our opener. I don't really like this. Obviously we've got the turn 1 Hierarch, but waiting until turn 4 to place the Garda is a bit poor. This could turn into a decent hand, but if we draw lands, we're just going to flood out, basically, and not be able to do anything. So I decided to mulligan this away, which might have been a wrong decision. Obviously, this 6-card hand doesn't work, as we've got no green source. So this is okay. But yeah, I kind of wish we kept the first hand now. But I think we were justified in mulliganing that. Opponent plays a turn 2 Vial. I'll play Pride Mage here. We don't have a second green mana, so we can actually play Eternal Witness if we wanted to. We'll play Selfless Spirit, which is fine. We're going to attack for 3 here. I kind of want to destroy the Vial, but at the same time, I think playing out the Hierarch is just the better play at this point. Opponent plays Thalia. Flies over for 2 with the Spirit. Passes back to us. So yeah, there's a lot of options here in terms of what we could do. Obviously we've got Path to Exile here. And we've got the Knight now active, so we can use the Knight to search up a land, well, a fetch land ideally, and then search up a second green source or a second white, a second green source, so we could cast any of these creatures, Eternal Witness or Courser of Crufix. So my plan was here to play out the Tireless Tracker. I'm going to attack him with the Pride Mage. We're fully expecting our opponent to use the Vial to bring something into play, but I don't know whether he's going to block or not. But the plan really is to attack here with the Pride Mage, and then use the Knight to search up a land, and sacrifice the Pride Mage to kill off the Vial. And that also will get us a activation on our Tireless Tracker, well, 2 activations if we search for the fetch. So I thought that was like the best value play we could achieve. So our opponent brings in the Serra Avenger. He sacrifices Selfless Spirit, which is definitely premature, because I am planning to sacrifice the Pride Mage. I assume my opponent hadn't factored in Knight of the Reliquary's ability, and therefore assumed I was tapped out. So I guess that's who he's thinking, but yeah, he shouldn't have done that, as we're going to sack the Pride Mage, so he's kind of killed off his Selfless Spirit for no reason. I accidentally sacked the Forest rather than the Plains. In my head, I was concerned that our opponent might be a Blood Moon deck. I guess that's not actually very likely, considering, but I just thought we'd have fewer Plains than we have Forests, and I end up sacking the Forest, but forgetting that I need double green to play any of these cards. Any of the creatures in my hand. So yeah, it was definitely a big mistake on my end. But going to be able to destroy the Vial, keep and generate 2 clues here while making our Knight a 4/4 thanks to the 2 lands that are now in the graveyard. Probably Flicker Wisp, flickering one of the clue tokens, so we're not going to be able to use that, unfortunately. We don't draw land, so yeah, this puts us in a really tricky position. I think I end up keeping back Path on the assumption that I'm going to then just crack a clue and Path one of our opponent's creatures, because obviously we're on 12 now, so we are kind of at risk of dying to his squad of flyers. Attacks, I decided to path the Avenger. I was in two minds as whether to path the Flickerwisp and the Avenger. I decided to go for the Avenger just because it has Vigilance. Obviously it's factually the bigger threat, but as a 3-3 rather than a 3-1, but it's definitely a mistake, as we will come to see, because he can do a lot more tricks and things with the Flickerwisp. And I believe he has a second Flickerwisp here, which means he can then blink his own Flickerwisp, which can then blink out the Knight, which makes our life very difficult. So I'm able to crack the fetch here. I really need a green and a white source ideally, because I'm potentially looking at getting back Path to Exile. So I put that into play tapped because I didn't want to go down to 6, which leaves me dead to his Flickerwisp. But I don't know if that was the right thing to do. I obviously wanted to crack a clue ideally, but then I had an issue with my own life total. Maybe we should just fetch up a basic forest, but it all stems from sacking the wrong land earlier in the game, which obviously has not worked out particularly well for us. We don't draw land, and that's really kind of the crux of the issue here, is that we just aren't drawing lands. We didn't draw enough lands, and yeah, I kind of messed up on the use of the Knight, which is becoming a problem. So I'm keeping back Path to Exile here. I don't know whether we maybe should have just Eternal Witnessed for a land, and then we would have had at least 4 lands. But I decided to keep back Path just to make sure we don't die this turn. We're going to path one of the Wisps. But then our opponent has a Restoration Angel, which is going to bounce the Flickerwisp, which is then going to flicker the Restoration Angel, which then comes back at end of turn, which you can use to bounce the Flickerwisp. And then he can get rid of our Knight, or he can get rid of our land. Either way, basically our opponent's got gonna have 9 power of flyers, and we've only got 5 life. So yeah, that just wraps up the game there, unfortunately. Yeah, it didn't go particularly well for us. Really a mistake on my end that kind of pulled us in the wrong direction. And yeah, we saw a lot more flyers out of our opponent this turn. So in terms of the sideboarding, I think I brought in Linvala and Sigarda. I think I might have brought in Sigarda first, but I found Linvala in the sideboard, and I was like, that's probably going to be useful. So that's where we went with the sideboarding after seeing this match and seeing how many flyers he had. Yeah, flyers kind of an issue for us if they get too many on the board. So I certainly sideboarded accordingly thereafter. So let's go on to game 3, sorry, and the decider. So here we are with game 3, so the decider. This is our opening hand. It's pretty good. It's slightly awkward in the sense that it does not have a second coloured land. So this hand is weak to a turn 1 lightning bolt on our bird, which I was certainly conscious of, but I thought I'll take the risk, because turn 2 Knight of the Reliquary is kind of too much to turn down. Very frustrated to see that our opponent does have the turn 1 lightning bolt. So opponent plays Vile, and we're not looking great here. I also note that my clock has gone down quite a lot. There's a lot of decisions with Selesnya value, and yeah, I'm not the fastest player at the best of times, so our clock is certainly running down, and we're definitely in a bad position here. Opponent played Blade Splicer on turn 3, and we haven't actually hit our 3rd land drop yet. We managed to find a forest finally. We're out Corsair. As I mentioned previously, it can block the Golem tokens very profitably. Opponent plays Restoration Angel, end of turn blinking blade splicer, so he's got another golem, which is not good for us. So I'm going to have to hit for 6 here. And the planes, which are going to play out. See Sagada on top, which could be useful, but I think we're going to be forced into collected companying here. Our opponent's going to tech hedge the Temple Garden. Oops, sorry about that. Okay. So we've got collected company, which is going to hit a second courser, and I think we're going to go for the knight here rather than the tracker, just because it's going to be bigger and it's going to be able to take out the golems if we can get some cards into the graveyard, or even just use its ability, to be honest. So it's going to be able to actually outsize the golems soon, which makes his ground attacks somewhat neutered. So I'm just going to block the golems here, take 3, down to 6. And play Temple Garden untapped, so we've got 4 mana, but we're going to regain the life, so there's no loss of life there. Opponent plays a Restoration Angel on the Blade Splicer again. I decide to path the Restoration Angel. There's a risk here that our opponent could potentially Flicker Wisp in response, because he has got this Vial on 3. Fortunately, he doesn't. The reason I'm pathing the Restoration Angel is because we are on 6 life, and therefore he can attack for 6 and potentially kill us. I would be able to actually tutor up a land at that point, so we would gain 2 life, and we could actually survive slightly beyond that point. But it's a little bit of a close run thing, so I decide that it's a good time to get rid of one of those Restoration Angels. Less concerned about the golem tokens at this point. As I say, Knight's about to become 4/4, and obviously the coursers can chump the well, not chump, just bounce off the other golems. Thalia comes down, which is annoying. It means I can't collected company this turn. But I definitely want to block with the knight, so I decided that that was kind of the better way to go about things. But potentially we could have, instead of blocking with a knight, collected company, sack a land and collected company, and then had 2 more blockers in response to the Thalia coming down. So we're going to search up a fetch land here, gain 2 life up to 8. I'm going to kill one of his golems and then take 4. So we draw into Courser there, which is why I don't break the fetch any earlier. So we're going to be able to play a 3rd Courser here, which is obviously very good. It negates his flying attacks with the Restoration Angel. So this all works out fairly nicely for me. Very conscious of the clock at this point in time. When I was actually playing the game, because obviously we're in a bit of a situation with that. Take the hit here from Restoration Angel. I should have cracked the fetch in response and gained the 3 life beforehand. That would have definitely been better. But we fortunately don't get burnt by that mistake. Obviously at this point our opponent could have lightning bolted us in response to our use of the knight, and we wouldn't have been able to do anything about it, so we definitely should have cracked the fetch before taking the 3 damage, but fortunately we don't get punched for that. But that's certainly something to watch out for. We see Excavator on top after using Knight's ability, so we definitely want that. We find a Horizon Canopy on top, so that's going to gain us 3 life back up to 7. We're going to play the Excavator, which is obviously going to make sure that we can keep playing lands. We can also keep drawing cards with Horizon Canopy at this point if we so desire, but we've got plenty of action going on. So opponent tries to play an Arbiter. We're going to crack our fetch land to find a land at this point, just to make sure we get our Courser triggers. We're down to 6 after attack with the Restoration Angel. I decide to pay the Leon Arbiter's cost there and search up Gavany Township here. Our opponent has a lot of ghost quarters which he can use to deal with the Gavany Township, so to speak, but we have excavators, so we can actually just replay it from our graveyard. So it's going to be a struggle for him to keep it off the board, as long as the excavator stays on the board. So get a lot of triggers there from our Corsair after our opponent Ghost Quarters us. Opponent Ghost Quarters is on our draw, or our upkeep. I forgot about the Arbiter there, so we should have paid for the Arbiter in response to that. He Ghost Quarters another land, so we're going to pay this time as a catch our own mistake. And I'm going to be able to search up a forest here. So we're going up to 14. Could have gone even higher if we'd paid the excavator. So what was that? Sorry. Did our opponent path us? Or did we path our opponent? I think we just drawed it. I think we drew a path. And we paid Gavany Township out of the graveyard. Okay, so we're a mana away from being able to actually use the Gavany Township, but our opponent's used up all his Ghost Quarters, so we're going to be able to use it next turn. I play our second Knight of the Reliquary, which obviously gives us a pretty formidable board presence, and as I say, next turn I'm looking at being able to activate Township, which probably should don't let us attack in. We're going up to 16 life. We could be even higher, as I say, if we'd paid for that search with the Ghost Quarter our opponent gave us. So yeah, we're a fairly healthy life total, and we can attack with everything here. Probably shouldn't have attacked with the excavator. Our opponent like double blocks it, well, triple blocks the excavator to make sure it dies. So probably should have just kept that back, because that's the best way to keep Gavany Township on the board. But even one activation of Gavany Township is probably enough between us. So unfortunately the excavator dies, but the knights get to kill off their blockers, and we get to hit for 9 with our coursers. And yeah, now we've got path open as well to us if we so desire. But just going to attack in. Front's not really got any good blocks. Double block on the Corsair to kill it, but it's not really going to matter. So we'll play Thalia again, and we can just attack here and finish up the match. So yeah, they're very tight on time there, which is kind of the main thing. We managed to come back from a kind of awkward early start where we didn't draw our third land for a while, but as I say, we got a lot of really good value cards. Corsairs did a lot of work in this matchup, just gaining us that life to keep us in the game, and also being a great blocker against their creatures. And as I say, their hate is not particularly well targeted at us, which certainly makes it favourable on our end of things. Apart from the search hate, as I say, which is annoying but not the end of the world, because we can play around it, and we have a lot of ways to get around that. So yeah, I think generally this matchup's pretty favourable. Seems to work out pretty well for us. But yeah, just really watch out for flyers, I guess. It's probably the bigger part of it, and Flicker Wisp shenanigans, which were the reason we lost in game 2. So yeah, there's certainly a risk this deck poses, but I think we're pretty heavily favoured in this matchup generally.